Hi, I'm Pat McGowan, a furniture maker in Oregon. This video is a response to Tommy MacDonald's recent fine woodworking article and video entitled, "Every Hand Plane Needs a Tune-Up." And while I agree with that, if you have a new high-quality plane like a Veritas or a Lie-Nielsen, there are 3 points in that article that I would strongly suggest you avoid. Those are taking out the frog to chase after burrs, flattening the sole, which is a recipe for disaster, and messing with the fit of the cap iron to the blade. So why not do those things? Because your plane is almost certainly fine. That's why you got a high quality plane. If you bought a new car, you wouldn't bring it home, take it apart and start grinding on it. You'd drive it, and that's good advice for your plane. Sharpen it up and use it. It'll tell you if there's a problem. Now, in addition, an article like this just doesn't have the space to tell you everything you need to know to do it right. In fact, if you were to do those things with only that information, you're almost sure to screw up your plane. Let me tell you what I think is the biggest example: flattening the sole. Okay? Now, the article does say briefly that if you have a new plane that has that problem, maybe you should return it, but all of the pictures and the video show a nice new plane, suggesting that, oh yeah, well, new plane probably does need it, and if you're careful, you could do it this way. But that's the wrong path to go down. The aerator sirens really go off when it shows doing the flattening with the frog and the blade removed. That assembly can change the shape of the sole, and at that point you would be putting in a problem that you do not want. It shows using a conventional planing grip to do the flattening, but most of us have a little bit of twist to our planing motion. You don't want that in the sole of your plane either. In addition, you need to work off the ends of the abrasive in either direction and either side in order to even the wear on the abrasive. Otherwise, it will take on a shape and transfer that to the bottom of your plane. Another thing that you don't want. So, now this is not to say that there isn't a tune-up that every hand plane would benefit from. That would be flattening the back of the blade, sharpening to a wicked sharp edge, and learning to set it up for a sweet, even shaving of, say, 2/1000ths or so. Let's look at that. Alright, let's get started with our tune-up. Take apart your blade assembly with a screwdriver. You could use a lever cap, but you could use a chisel as well. Neither one's a great idea. Before you touch anything to your stones, flatten them. It is easy to do, and it's crucial for this operation. I start on the fine stone so I don't move contaminants over to that fine stone. And look at that. This is worth doing before you sharpen every time. Alright, I'm going to use a blade that needs a little work on the back. Rather than working on this side in the video, as the stone wears, it'll put a shape in your blade you don't want. So work over on this side. I start with the blade off, and I move it on to the stone. Maybe about 50 strokes like that. Another 50 like this, all the pressure out at the tip. And I spin the stone around, and I do the same thing again. I wipe the blade looking for an even gray sheen. If it's not there, I re-flatten and keep going. If the back's okay, if the back looks okay, let's have a very quick sharpening. I use a guide because it is so fast. This stop assures me of an angle of about 32. Since the blade's ground at 25, this is really fast. A new blade is the fastest sharpening you'll ever get. And there's a burr already. So I'll wipe off the contamination and go to the fine stone. Work across the width of the stone just to keep the wear even. I'm jumping from an 800 to an 8000, but because I'm working such a small amount of metal, it's fine. And that's already mirror bright. But we're not done until we do both sides. I'm going to raise up the back of the blade. because that will once again concentrate all my work out at the tip of the blade. And that is a blade that's ready for cutting. As the secondary bevel gets bigger, it'll take a little longer, but when it gets too big, I regrind and I keep my sharpening as fast as I can. Alright, we've got a nice sharp edge. Let's move on to the last step. The distance of the chip breaker to the edge isn't too critical, but it's nice if it's in the same place each time, since the depth adjuster engages into the chip breaker. Just tap those to make them even. Put it in gently. Slide it forward onto the depth adjuster and wiggle it sideways onto the lateral adjuster. In with the lever cap. If the lever cap doesn't go in easily, it's probably because the blade didn't sit down on the lateral adjuster, so make sure it does. It should always go on easily. How tight should that screw be? Well, I like it so that I can adjust the depth of the blade without super strength, but not so light that the wood pushes the plane blade around when you're planing. Now we need to set the depth. So I spin the blade until I can see a shadowy line there. It's heavier on this side, so I'm going to push the lateral adjuster to that side. Once it looks even, I'm going to go in reverse. The blade's disappearing. Smaller, smaller, until I'm not sure it's still there. I don't know that it's good, but I know it's close. This is how I'm going to get it good. This is a test block. I want to use this before I put this plane to my money wood. Okay? This will tell us exactly what the plane is doing. And right now, it's just creating the tiniest, almost dust. So a little more depth. Very thin shaving, a little more. That looks nice. But I need to check it side to side to see if it's even. Real light on the left. Heavier on the right. So I push the lateral adjuster towards the side that's heavy. Try it again. Okay, that looks nice and even and a civilized thickness. How do you judge thickness? Well, a dial caliper is handy, but a page from Fine Woodworking is also about 2/1000ths of an inch thick. Also a thermal receipt from Home Depot or wherever. So at that point, our tune-up is complete. We know exactly what this plane is doing with the benefit of our test block. And after that, it's about making shavings. I aimed this tune-up at real high-quality planes, but I'd suggest you try it on whatever plane you have. You may find that you can just get to work and start making things. Now, if you need a more extensive tune-up, start grinding on things, I recommend Garrett Hack's classic book, A Hand Plane Book. It goes into extensive and helpful detail on how to do those. For more information, for instance on sharpening, there are a lot of resources. The method I use is basically the same as Lie-Nielsen's YouTube video by Dennis Puhalski, very helpful. There are also some great sharpening books by Ron Hawk and Leonard Lee, Tom Lie-Nielsen, and of course there are classes and many resources for us. In the meantime, I hope this has helped you get started with your good plane and in particular helped you avoid screwing it up. And best wishes for your work in the shop.